Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. How is everybody? How was your weekend? I hope everybody is well, and I hope you're all settled in this evening. I hope you're all ready for a good, lively chat tonight. No doubt, I think this one might it might get a bit more lively than normal. What I'm going to say is, before I even go in and kind of like sort of say hello to a few people, I want to kind of say that this is going to be a positive stream tonight. There's a reason why it's got hate in the title. There's a reason why it's got hate in the thumbnail. But I'll get onto all that. It'll all make sense as we go on. But it's going to be a positive stream tonight. This is about positivity. This is not about negativity. So if you're kind of thinking, well, it doesn't normally do this kind of like hate type stuff, I'm not. It doesn't mean that it's not relevant, and it doesn't mean it's clickbait. What I mean is, it's not going to be kind of like, we're not going to be bashing on games here. So, anyway, let's see who we've got in the chat tonight. Let me scroll up. We had a load of people in. I think obviously the topic decided folks wanted to come in and chat about it. We had William Jones, we had Palmsy in, we had Tim Kelly in, Arnold de Gans was in, Mr. Trainer Guy, Dirk Ignazek, Lord Maiden was in, Peter Nicholas, Ortega, Steve Evans, Ward LaFrance, Red Rose Wargaming. We've got Krabby Vision in as well. We've got Blizzards. We've got Christian in as well. Good evening, Christian. I'll come on to Christian in a little bit and about D&D as well. Thank you very much. Tony Howell's in as well. Jeffrey Higdon is in, all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. Good evening, Jeff. How are you doing? Timbo Clev's in. We've got Yogam in as well. We've got James Zom. He says he can't wait to get home and build more of his Indomitus set. We've got Kodos is in as well. Says, good evening, everyone. First time I managed to watch the live stream and not just the video a day later. Welcome to a live stream, and I hope it lives up to your expectations. We've also got John Estel in as well. Good evening, John. Got Suter Pumpkin Man. He said he's just going to be making bases for some anime figures he just got. Nice. Where were they from? We've got Luke in as well from Standard Tabletop. He said, let's make love, not war in the 41st millennium. James Bray's in. We've got Kieran in as well from Odd-Sided Dice Podcast. Jacob's in as well, says time to get nuts, boys and girls. Derek Hodges in as well, saying he hates waiting. He's just waiting for the clock to tick down, waiting for it to start, eh? We've got Josh Price in as well. We've got Glenn Griffin. Hello, Glenn. I've not seen you in a little while, mate. Hope you're well. We've got VJ in as well, all the way from Australia. Good morning to you, sir. JVC Paints is in. We've got Busey in as well. Hello, mate. Luke's in. The internet is a bloody hateful and fickle place, but the person that keeps coming in and doing the thumbs down really pisses me off. Don't worry about it, mate. It's all interaction. I'm not worried about that stuff. Waka goes in as well. Hello to you. Jim says you're not a robot tonight. You've got no idea, James, how many times I've double checked the microphone before I went live tonight, just to be sure. I wanted this to go off without a hitch tonight. I didn't need any interruptions. John saying one hater on the stream. I think it was there from about 12 o'clock today, so I ain't worried, mate. David Moffat says he's listening at work. Phil Tallhurst is in as well. Andrew Fairbanks is in as well. Hello, mate. We've got Bobby Clark. Glenn saying hate leads to the dark side, or is that anger? I can't remember, mate. It's something to do with Star Wars. Timbo Clev says yo, not settled just yet. Doing the washing up. What's new, mate? We've got Chris Warden in. Good afternoon to you, mate. We've also got Simon York, Tony Tiger, Jonathan Wyborn. We've got Whiskey Tango. Barry Cliver's in as well. MS Paint, nice to see you, mate. Peter Max in. Mark Coxey says, should be an interesting topic tonight. He says, personally can't be arsed with the drama around negativity. That's why I love this channel so much. No dramas. Tonight will be no different, mate, so don't you worry about that. We've got Austin in as well, all the way from LA. Good evening, Austin. How are you doing? Skull Munch is in as well, away from him and Ruth. A little wave back there. Simon Morton, good evening to you, mate. Thordlam's in as well. Good evening to Thordlam. We've got Matt Mountains in, saying everyone he's painting his Necrons tonight. James Hart, good evening. Says definitely an interesting topic. Yeah, I'll come on to what spurred it on and stuff like that in a minute before I kind of get into the stuff I want to talk about. VG saying nothing in the internet loves more than a good hate fest. Also, the anonymity brings the worst in people. Yeah. Busey's had a few problems with his Dominus delivery, but he's got to say the guy's been really helpful. Nice one, mate. I appreciate that. It's good that somebody's kind of good customer service. Steve Evans, hello, sir. High Lord of Terror, good evening to you. Dave Doggy's in as well. David Mackay, Bone Ripper says, I hope everyone in the chat's well. I hope everyone in the chat's well too. Phil Tallhurst saying, don't forget the thumbs up, people. That would be very nice. Thank you very much. If I can find where we were up to there. I'm not going to say it, Thordlum. I've just saw what you wrote. I'm not going to say it. Where are we at? 6.5. I did say it as well. Whiskey Tango says, interaction for the interaction god. The algorithm cares not whence the interaction flows. Exactly. Rob Fannelton's in as well from Washington, D.C. Nice to see you, mate. Jeffrey Higgins says, where's the co-host? He carried the last show. He's coming over tomorrow, mate, to be fair. He might be around for Wednesday again, I don't know. But yeah, he's got a driving lesson early in the morning, so he doesn't come and stay over on a Monday night. He's learning to drive at the moment, so he's got an early morning driving lesson back over where his mum lives. So yeah, he's coming over tomorrow. Scott Webster's in as well, so interested to see how this goes down. Scott Longworth's in as well. Robert Zunk's in. So many new faces as well. Nice to see some new faces in. So, folks, let's get started, eh? Let's dive straight into the topic. So, tonight's topic, Warhammer 40K, why so much hate? And where this has come from, let me just, before I start, if you want to grab my attention, if you want to ask any specific questions, any points you want me to kind of to look at, please, at BlackJack Legacy, and that'll highlight it on my screen. I imagine there's going to be a lot of chat tonight. We've already got over 100 people in, and we're not like even 10 minutes into the stream, I don't think. We're 5 minutes in, and we've already got over 100 people. So it's going to be a bit more lively tonight. If you want to grab my attention, at BlackJack Legacy, and when I go back to the chat, at least I'll see them. So, yeah, tonight. So I've always looked at 40k over the years. 40k was pretty much the first game I ever played. When I kind of got back into gaming as an adult, I played sort of very briefly as a kid around like Hero Quest and stuff. But 40k was the game that got me back in. I didn't particularly enjoy it when I got back in. There's lots of different reasons for that. The game itself wasn't the reason, and that was when I kind of discovered all of the other games that's out there. And you all know that me personally in my game, in what I do in my hobby, what I like to paint, what I like to play, what I like to talk about, is all of the games that's out there, not just the kind of the big ones. However, as sort of time's moved on, and I've kind of I've sort of looked at lots of different games, I've always looked at 40k and thought it's far too popular to kind of to not sort of find out more about it again. So at a time when me and Krabby were starting to talk about putting a small force together and having some small kind of 500-point games, along comes Games Workshop and says, right, we've got 9th edition coming. So I started to get excited for 9th edition, and it was nice to see the hype train. And to be fair, it was nice to kind of get involved with all of that, with like a wider community for a really popular game. There's most other games don't tend to have that much kind of hype and interaction and kind of that much amount of new stuff coming. So it was really fun, and it was really good to get on board with that announcement and kind of the build up to the release and all of that kind of stuff. And then obviously the Undomitus set, there was the whole fallout of people not being able to get their sets when they ordered them on the day. I was one of those people that missed out at the time. When I placed the order, the website screwed up and my order didn't go through in time, even though it was at like 4 minutes past 10 in the morning. But Krabby sounds like you're blaming me. I'm not blaming you, mate. I'm glad there was somebody local who wanted to play, mate. That was the difference. We wanted to play those lower point games. So I was one of them people. So I'm not coming at this from a point of like sort of being a GW fanboy or anything like that. I also don't think that any company is immune from criticism. Every company equally deserves to be criticised whether they do something wrong, and they equally deserve to be praised if they do something right. So once that kind of that point hit, the fallout from that and the negativity around it was like nothing I'd really kind of seen online. I'd not been that close to 40k in the past. But like obviously, the more time I spent around it and around the community, was the more I saw it. So that was kind of the first point where I was starting to think, this is quite interesting, this. Then we get to a point, sort of in my own Facebook group. So for those that don't know, there's a Facebook group called BlackJack Legacy Community, something like that, Facebook community group, and we cover and we talk about all different games. Everyone is welcome. It doesn't matter what game you play, whether you just like to paint minis, whether you just like to read rule books, whatever it is. If you even just like to read Black Library books, for example, everybody is welcome, no matter your abilities, what games you play. But I started to see some of the negativity about 40k creeping into that group as well. And in the past, we never really had it. But we didn't really kind of talk about 40k very much because I'd not really talked about 40k very much. So what I started to see was just like little niggles and little comments that like little bits of sort of just a little bits of like bitterness and twisting, if you like. And it was I kind of kept an eye on it. I was conscious I didn't want to turn the group into a 40k group because that's not the point of it. The group has always been about all of the different games. But by the same stretch, I wasn't going to kind of rule out 40k. It was something I was interested in. But I was reading a comment at the same time there. It was something I was interested in, so I'm going to talk about it, but I didn't want it to dominate the group because at this time it's really popular, and obviously it's going to be a popular thing to talk about. And then the more this kind of gone on, the more I start to see I see this kind of primarily that there's three kinds of people who seem to kind of to hate on 40k at the moment. There are the people that don't even play this game. They play other games. They tend to not like the fact that 40k is popular. So at every opportunity, they kind of bitch and moan about it, whether that be that model looks shit. It's an awful game, awful rule set. They're too expensive. The rules basically, the rules are rubbish. I hate the sales model, all that kind of stuff. But these are people that don't play the game, don't buy the stuff. The next sort of group of people is there is a group of people who actually do play the game, but for whatever reason they seem to want to hate on all of the bits that aren't specifically to their liking. So these are the people that I wish we'd go back to 2nd edition or 3rd edition was the best. Why did this change? Oh, I hate that there's a new codex. Why does it have to be Space Marines again? So these are people that would consider themselves fans of the game, and yet they still bitch and moan and kind of complain about it. There was a third kind as well, but it's completely gone from my mind, so we'll not concentrate on that bit. But what I don't seem to see is this level of people bitching and moaning about any other game. And the more I've looked at this and the more I've watched, I've become fascinated with this now. The more I've looked at this, the less I think it's not necessarily a GW problem anymore. I always used to think it was just people saying, oh, it's like it's GW, they're the big evil corporation. I don't even think it's that kind of thing now. It seems very much about 40k, and I think it's 40k because 40k is everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. It's the new big hype at the minute. There's a new edition coming out. Of course everybody's talking about it. But nobody kind of bitches and moans about Blackstone Fortress. Nobody bitches and moans about Blood Bowl. Nobody has a complaint about, let's say, like Shadespire or Beastgrave, for example, or Aeronautica Imperialis. So it can't be just an anti-GW thing. It feels at the minute like it's an anti-40k thing. And that's what I've been kind of starting to kind of focus on and stuff. Now, I've made some kind of notes and some points I wanted to touch on, really. There's a big difference between not liking a game or not liking a model or not liking a paint job and just hating online about a game or about a model or whatever it is. Like, the hate serves absolutely no purpose. Like, if I'm excited about something, or the people in my group, or you, for example, are excited about something, what gives these folks the right to come in and basically try and steal it away from you? And there was a comment I made in our Patreon group at the weekend where I said, actually, I can really see why people basically avoid social media when it comes to 40k. I can see why people get pissed off. I can see why people's enjoyment gets like sapped from them because of the sheer amount of just like anger and hate from people who don't really have a dog in the race sometimes. They've got no intention of buying the models. They've got no intention of playing the game, but something kind of gives them that God-given right to come in and just bitch and moan and tell you that your hobby's wrong. And I found that really interesting, and I wanted to kind of reach out really tonight. There's loads of stuff I want to talk about, but I wanted to reach out and like, why is it that 40k gets this level of hate, and why is it that specifically 40k? Like, I know what one of the things that's going to Tiberius says he's talking faster. I'm passionate about it, mate. I'm sure most people will say, well, it's because it's the most popular, so there's more eyes on it, so there's more haters. And I do get that, and it's something I want to kind of touch on in a little bit that kind of relates into that. But it's almost like, it's like some of it is driven by channels, sort of, because some of it is like, in fact, there's some notes I made here, basically, and about basically the more negative stuff that you read, the more negatively you will react, and the more negatively you'll become. So if you're always reading negative stuff about something online, you will become more negative in general. Like, your own mental health will be affected by it. And basically, there's a thing called negativity bias. And negativity bias basically draws views and it draws clicks. This is the point why I put hate in the title tonight. This is the reason why I put hate in the thumbnail today. Because I wanted to prove a point that this would be the most popular live stream because of hate. And I'm not going to talk about hate. I'm talking about positivity all night. The whole point of it is we've got 142 people viewing this now. We've never had 400. It's gone to 140 now because they all feel like clickbaited there. It's not clickbait. I'm talking about hate. I'm just not hating. I'm not spreading negativity about the game. But it just goes to prove a point. It just goes to prove that if people will see negative things and they'll latch onto them. There's basically some scientific experiments being done, and it basically says that one negative comment in amongst like many others can draw 10 to 15 times more clicks on it than a positive comment or a kind of a conservative comment. There's reasons why this happens. Like, and you don't see negativity about other games. And I think one of the reasons we don't see negativity, Codus is talking about Warhammer Fantasy. I'll come on to that one as a very specific point. One of the reasons that we don't really see negativity about other games is because I think that generally, because it might be just that one person. Because let's say that the audience for that game is a tenth of the size of 40k. So what happens is you have that one negative person, and then what happens is a very positive crowd kind of jumps on that and kind of like dampens it down a bit. And they probably feel then a little bit alienated, or they might feel like they can't really kind of speak up. And I really want to draw a kind of like a line between negativity and constructive criticism. They're two different things. Hate is not the same as constructively sort of not liking something. That's very, very different. I think because there are so many people in and around 40k, there are more negative people. Not only are there more negative people, there are more people on the outside of 40k who wish that their game was more popular, and so they then also pile in, and all of a sudden that negativity rises up. And we all know that if you make a video about 40k, it tends to get more views. If you make a negative video about 40k, you'll get even more views. And that kind of stuff just drives a level of hate and negativity through that whole gaming system. Now, just speaking very briefly there about Krabby's just saying you should have gone and stuck an ultramarine image. It is an ultramarine image, mate, to be fair. So what was I just going to say that completely threw me? What we're talking about? No, it's gone from my mind now. But yeah, so why 40k? Why 40k? I'm going to... Sorry, for Warhammer Fantasy, that's what I was going to talk about. I completely understand why people got bitter and a bit salty and annoyed at Games Workshop as a company with what happened to 40k. I can completely understand that. I can understand, whilst not support, but I can understand why some of those passionate Warhammer Fantasy players hated it on AOS. I don't agree with it. I think basically it's just because somebody else likes something, you shouldn't go over and basically shit all over it. Let them go on and like it, and you basically, It's much easier to walk away from it, but that's not the world we live in now. You don't just walk away from something. Somebody lights a blue touch paper, and everybody basically piles onto it. So I get the 40K thing, but when it comes back to things like sort of online videos and stuff like that, when it comes back to 40K as a popular thing, it's the negative stuff that stands out. There are extremes to this. I mean, or there are sort of exceptions, like Tabletop Minions, Uncle Atom, always very positive, has a really good following, and it's amazing to see that. You then get the flip side of it, people talking about Arch there in the channel. I don't really want to give the guy any airtime, but he has grown huge on the back of negativity and painting a very different picture. You've then also got channels, let's just say like Guerrilla Miniature Games, for example, who are generally very positive. However, look what happened when they did the review of Warcry, which was largely relatively negative. They didn't like it really from the main review, and look how many more views that got. Look what happened at the weekend when Goonhammer released their website report about the new app and about all of the problems with it. I personally thought it was really well written and it was really constructive, but people focused on the negative stuff, and they didn't focus on they say that this is really good. They focused on, this is a load of rubbish and this doesn't even work. They focus on the negative stuff, and like I said before, no company is devoid of criticism if they don't kind of meet the standard, especially when they're charging customers for something, so they're giving this stuff away. But that's very different to just kind of piling on with kind of hate stuff. Right, I'm going to very quickly dive in before I kind of go on some more stuff, because there's a lot of comments coming through. I'm going to pick some of the ones that's been highlighted, just because there's a lot of thing in there as well. Okay, so Phil Tallhurst says, is it because people think they have ownership over a system, a bit like footy fans? I think actually you could probably draw a comparison to footy fans. If you go back a number of years ago when Man United were pretty much winning everything in the English Premier League, dominating the Premier League, winning in Europe, all that kind of stuff, there was like Man United fans, and then there was everybody else basically kind of bitching about Fergie time at the end of a game and all this kind of stuff, and United always get it their own way. I think there's an element of that when it comes to 40K, that basically that it's almost like everybody who doesn't play 40K can rally in that kind of like sort of hitting on the big guy a little bit. So I think there's an element of that. However, I don't see the negativity in other games. Like I'm a Sunderland supporter. We are an awful team, and yet like we can still pick faults in what they do. Like I don't spend my time criticising what Man City are doing or what Liverpool are doing. I kind of am more concerned with what my team's doing. But I don't see that in wargaming. I see a lot of people bitching about 40K rather than just saying, I love the game I play, I'm really happy with it. Like I don't play 40K, I have no intention of playing 40K, therefore I don't have an opinion on it basically. Dave saying, so much hate because all killer cans have increased 33% in points in 9th. It's just a game, mate. It's just a game. There's obviously a reason why they've increased it. Like they've done loads of play testing and stuff. Like for years they've been hit with people saying that, you never play test the game. Now they've got a whole raft of people who are play testing the game for them. They've publicly come forward and talked about the play testing and about how rigorous it is. Like, it's never going to be enough, but that's what happens when it goes out into the wide world and thousands of people are playing it. That's why these things get adjusted. Krabby says, so that sounded like you're blaming... Oh yeah, that was what we were talking about there, wasn't it, mate? Got a few more people in as well. Lee Burns, hello to you, mate. Scott says, I couldn't get one either, but what did really annoy me was on launch night, a local game store took photos of everyone in attendance, but over half of them had more than one copy. To be fair, mate, there was no limits. I mean, GW put a limit of 3 on. At the end of the day, like, let's reel it back a little bit. You will be able to get one now, this second, if you want one. There is company. I missed out, and then a company got a delivery of 15 on Friday. I ordered one when they still had 48 left, and now it's here. It arrived this morning. I've got mine, right? So mine has now come. There are other companies who are getting big deliveries of a second wave of stuff. So if you missed out initially, and it was a little bit kind of gutting, really. I felt like I had missed out, and I wanted to get involved with the hype with everybody else, and it wasn't coming straight away. But At the end of the day, it's plastic soldiers, isn't it? But like, I think this is kind of being blown a bit out of proportion now. There's going to be plenty to go around. That just something happened. It's either taken them by surprise or they've intentionally created some kind of scarcity. Whatever the reason is, and I don't know, and I have no evidence either way. I think there's going to be plenty to go around now. Scott there saying one I had 3 copies, which was ridiculous. You could order up to 3 copies, mate. 3 copies was the limit, but there was so. I cannot really say it's wrong if they wanted 3 copies. Stefan says, after 9 editions, yep, I'm that old. I just feel GW is milking us every 4 or 5 years to re-buy everything. Updated, but let go of the $80 boot every time, not to mention new heroes. Hello, Stefan, by the way. Thanks for coming in. The other side of it is, mate, look at it from the flip side. They're a business, and they have shareholders, and they're not a charity. They're not in this to kind of give you the easiest ride, to never have to spend any money anymore. Like, you just keep all that stuff you've got and we'll never change anything. They're a business and they've got shareholders and they need to generate profits. And because they're a business on the stock market, they need to generate more profits every year and every subsequent year. So they have a business model that works really well. They are basically making more money than they've ever made. They're climbing the stock market. They were the fastest growing company on the Financial Times stock market of any company in the UK, and people keep buying it because we have to separate like how you feel about it personally, whether you agree with it or not, is kind of irrelevant, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. It's kind of irrelevant because you have the personal choice to either buy the stuff or not buy the stuff. If you play with a mate, like if there's just you and a mate and you play in the garage or you play at a local gaming store, whatever it is, and you don't go to tournaments and all that kind of stuff, you don't have to buy the new stuff. You can continue to play with the old rules, play with the old points, play with the old codexes. You don't have to buy into all of the new stuff. So when people like kind of hate on GW for basically being a business and making money, I get a bit lost in that. Like, I've come from a corporate background. I know what it's like. I know what you have to do to kind of appease shareholders. I've sat on those board meetings and kind of like sort of made those decisions along with others to make more money. That's what businesses do. So I get what you're saying, but it's one of those things, isn't it? They're not a charity. They are a publicly listed shareholder-owned company. And it is their number one priority are shareholders. As much as we'd like to say it's customers, their number one priority is shareholders. But as long as they keep making products that people buy, then the whole thing works. I'm scrolling down now, looking for the ones that kind of stand out as well. Luke's in there. Let's remember the hate of AOS when they killed Oldhammer. Yeah, so I kind of touched on that one. And like I say, potentially it was justified, that one. I don't think it was justified to keep going on for like 4 or 5 years after its release. I made a video a long time ago about kind of Warhammer Fantasy versus AOS, and really what I was saying in that video, and I think some people didn't watch it all and then jumped into the comments. What I was saying was, you don't have to hate on one game to kind of say how good your game is. So if you're an AOS player, you don't need to shit all over Warhammer Fantasy just to kind of justify its existence. If you love your game, play your game and let everybody else enjoy their hobby. And to be fair, I think that comment, what I've just said there, is almost kind of like the summary of tonight. Like, just let people enjoy their hobby. Just let people enjoy their fun. Let people enjoy the excitement when something new is coming out. Like, I get frustrated by the fact that somebody would come onto a Facebook group and just say, that's shit, basically. Just say, I think that's shit. That is not constructive. That doesn't help anybody. Like, all it's doing is it's just putting a dampener on other people's excitement and other people's enthusiasm. It doesn't help that person. They're just becoming more negative and more kind of like downtrodden because of that negativity. Like, wouldn't it would either be better to just say, I prefer this one, which is a more positive way of putting it, or not comment at all. Like, what difference does it make? People making these kind of comments tend to be the people that will never buy that model. They'll never buy 40k. That they already have the games that they play. And it's some of that stuff that kind of like set me off down this conversation for tonight. Because I wasn't going to talk about this tonight, but stuff over the weekend since about Friday is kind of like, the more it kind of appeared to me, the more I saw it and the more frustrated it kind of made me. And I'm all about positivity. I want this YouTube channel to be about positivity. I want the Facebook group to be about positivity. And I want it to be welcoming to every single person. I just don't want every single person to make other people feel bad about their hobby. Again, just scrolling down, Tiberius saying I'll watch it later at 0.75 speed, it'll be normal. It'll be a long video in that case, mate. Vaughan there saying, if I'm honest, I'm one of the guys who plays 2nd edition 40k, got me into the hobby, but stuck with it. Only time I hated 40k was 3rd edition, but feel people should play what's fun for them. I agree, mate. There's nothing more exciting than something new coming out for your game. And with a game like 40k, even if you play 2nd edition, there's nothing stopping you bringing newer models into it, buying the new terrain and kind of all that kind of stuff. There's nothing stopping you doing that. I do understand why people got upset about Warhammer Fantasy. I never played it, so I wasn't invested in it. There were a few dirty tricks that were in there without like launching lots of new stuff towards the end without really telling people it was happening. And so I do understand that, and I do have sympathy. What I kind of maybe don't get my head around is the fact that like 5 or 6 years down the line, I can't remember how long it's been out now. It's probably about 5 years. It might even be 7 years, is it? 5 years? I don't know. However long it's been, the fact that kind of animosity is still there, and people still come into AOS groups. When something new's being launched for AOS, they love to come in and go, oh, that would be better in Warhammer Fantasy or something. Like, I don't get that. Why spend your time in groups dedicated to a love of a game that you don't love? Like, if you go there, you're only going to bring negative comments to it. I don't get that. JVC says he walked away from GW around the time of AOS. It was like the final fought in the face. Started 40k in 88. GW was like a rotten ex-girlfriend. Went historical and never been happier. I'm glad that you find the stuff that you like. When we talk about this kind of this crazy ex-girlfriend kind of analogy thing in the Discord group today, and I don't get it. Like it. Games Workshop do not sort of come over and steal the money out of your wallet and then go, right, we've got your money, what would you like for it? There is always, Arnold, thank you very much for donating. This is my spot. Thank you, mate. You always have a choice. You never have to buy everything. Like, even today, it's becoming like, there's more and more stuff. I mean, there is a lot of stuff coming for 40k at the minute, but it's a new edition. The same thing happened in 8th edition, sorry, with all of the Death Guard stuff and the new Primera stuff coming out. It always happens. I don't know why people are surprised by this. The fact that there's new codexes coming and people are pissing and moaning about new codexes coming out. I don't know. These people either have never played 40k before and are already getting angry about it, or they're sitting on the sidelines looking in going, oh, another Space Marine Codex. I get that, but what did people really expect? Did they really expect that they were going to release new models and then not release a new Codex for it? Did they really expect that new Necron models were going to come out that there's no stats for and there was never going to be a new Codex? It kind of baffles me. You know what you're getting into with 40k. You know that they have this this sales model. So why would you complain about, like, why would you complain about it? It's like hitting your face against the wall and then complaining that your nose is bleeding. It's like you kind of know the cause and effect of this. If this is a problem, 40k is not the game for you. And I'm not somebody that like plays. I'm just coming into it now. So I'm not coming at this from some kind of GW fanboy position. So if that's what you think, you either don't know me or you've got this wrong. Like, I know exactly what I'm getting into buying it in 9th edition. I know I'm playing Marines, for God's sake, because I really like the Marines. I've always liked them. I like them more so since the Primaris stuff come out, and now I want to kind of build a Primaris army. I'm going to build the Necron stuff. I've been sort of building some of them up today. Like, I know what I'm getting myself into, so I'm not going to be surprised there's a new Codex. I also am not surprised there's going to be lots of new releases, but I also don't feel the need to have to buy every single thing. And I think when it comes to other games, things release so infrequently that people probably do feel that they can kind of keep on top of it and buy every new thing. Like, if you're a Blood Bowl player and you like to buy everything that comes out, you're not exactly going to be battered over the head with new stuff on a weekly basis. With 40k, there's a lot of armies to support, and and they have to generate more and more sales. That's how they do this. like when I first kind of got into gaming, there wasn't a new release every week for 40k. Like basically, like what your White Dwarf basically told you what was coming that month, and it was never that much. So you know what you're getting into is kind of my point. Luke's in, social media is an echo chamber and promotes a negativity. Right, echo chamber, something I was going to talk about that one. Let me just find my notes. Right, there's something called confirmation bias, basically, right? And that basically we tend to agree with what supports our bias and our opinion. So if I am if I'm a lover of 40k and somebody else sort of posts something positive about 40k, I'm probably going to sort of just my brain is wired, everybody's brain is wired for this confirmation bias. I'm going to go and like all the stuff that agrees with my kind of thought process. Think about it like the way, if you're wanting to go out at the weekend, you want to have a barbecue, and you look at the weather report, and the weather report on your phone says it's going to rain about 3 o'clock, and you go, I'm going to check a different one, and you go and you check BBC weather, and that one says it's not going to rain until about 8 o'clock, and you go, it's probably going to be fine. You know, I don't really trust the one that's giving me the weather report I don't want to hear. I'm probably going to trust the one that tells me it's going to be sunny all day. Like, if you're looking for a hotel for holiday, and you go through it and you look for the ones with the positive reviews, don't you? And you're scrolling down through TripAdvisor and you come to the one that says 1 star and the review says it was absolutely awful, the staff treated me like rubbish, the bedroom was full of ants and all this kind of stuff. You go, it was just some kind of disgruntled person. God, I'm not going to believe that review, or I'm not going to take that review into account. I'm just going to go by all the positive ones. And this is what confirmation bias is. However, this happens with negative bias as well. So if you don't like something, you will go searching out those negative comments. And I think that's why it becomes an echo chamber in general, because all the people that are negative all agree with each other, and all the people that are positive all agree with each other. And if you're somebody that sits somewhere in the middle, generally like I do kind of thing, I'm quite sort of like, you know, I'm generally positive about stuff, but I won't get caught up in the negativity, if you like. You end up somewhere in the middle kind of thing, a bit of a no man's land. The thing is, people don't check facts. So there was a comment basically in my Facebook group at the weekend about how this new codex is not coming out until October. Typical GW, they've done this thing. That means there's all these new models come out and we won't be able to get any of the points until October. And I replied to the comment and I said, well, actually, the points are in chapter approved. And I showed a picture. Somebody had shared the picture in our Discord chat. And I showed the picture and I said, look, all the points are at the back of the chapter approved. And the person said, oh, well, I haven't seen it myself, to be fair. And I was just going by what somebody else told me. And they hadn't seen chapter approved either, because chapter approved hadn't come out yet. And this is what I mean about people don't really check facts. If you have a negative bias about something and somebody tells you something negative, it's much easier for you to then pass it off as fact. And I see this a lot with 40k. I don't see people saying this about Burrs and Badgers. I don't see people saying this about Kings of War, really. Like nobody's moaning and kind of like getting up in arms about like sort of points in Walking Dead, for example. It's just the sheer size of 40k seems to attract this feeling of just wanting to pile on, and there's a negative comment, let me pile on with something I heard from a bloke 3 doors down's nephew's brother's dog. That kind of stuff. Joel saying, Andy tricked me. Did you really expect I was going to get negative, mate? I mean, there's an element of negativity in this, because I'm being negative about people being negative, so it's kind of it's inception a little bit. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be positive here, and I'm trying to say that if you feel the need to be negative online about something you don't even play, or you're not interested in, what's the motivator for that? If I would genuinely like anybody that's in the chat now who feels the need to go online and say negative things about a game that they don't play, please tell me what drives that. Because I want to learn more. I want to understand. I don't understand why somebody would do that. So please, inform me. This is what I was on about, fact checking. I'm only giving you my opinion. I'm in the privileged position of being able to tell you what I think without really having lots of people trying to shout me down. And that's why I can talk about this kind of stuff without it becoming like a negative bitch fest kind of thing. So if somebody feels differently, please tell me why. Please tell me why. Peter saying, I think it's ironic the Indomitus rage was caused by circumstances outside of GW influence. I think they were really, really trying hard with this one. I think, Peter, I think because of a negative connotation from people, even if GW were 100% honest with what they've said, and I don't know, I have no sort of data or facts to say that they're kind of telling me the truth or they're kind of telling me a pack of lies. I have no idea. I have to take it on face value. Even if it was 100% true, there are always people who will say, yeah, well, they would say that. And I think this kind of happens. I don't see it with Mandic. I don't see it with Corvus Belli. I don't see it with other games. It's something to do with the massive popularity of something and the influx of people from the outside looking in as well. There are people within kind of who would consider themselves as fans who, let's just say they are an Imperial Guard player and they've only ever played Imperial Guard and that's the only thing they collect, and they hate the fact that every other army gets stuff and they've had nothing new for years. I can get that. I can understand that. But then you have a choice again. You can stop buying 40k, stop playing 40k if you don't like it. You can pick up a different army. You can play a different army if you love the game, but you're wanting some new stuff and there's nothing new coming. Like, I find it hard. I find it hard to get my head around why people. The first point of call for those kind of things is I'm going to bitch about it. I'm not going to come up with anything constructive. I'm just going to complain about it. Kodos says, Warhammer Fantasy had the same problem and 40k was the more relaxed community until it was gone. It's interesting that because I do wonder whether one of the levers in Warhammer Fantasy going down that kind of route to the fact that it was gone was, did it get to a point where basically there wasn't a lot of new stuff coming out, to be fair, and did it become a little bit stale? Did the community then start a kind of infighting because there's nothing new to talk about, if you like? Kieran says, I had a few people being looked down on in shops because we don't play 40k. There's a bit of elitism in places, so maybe those drive the response of the negativity back. But then you're then associating the negativity with the game, as opposed to the elitist people playing it. You have to separate the two things. There are elitist people who play lots of games. What about the people that bitch about 40k and say you shouldn't play that, you should play Dead Zone, for example? Are they being elitist about that? There are people who look down upon people who play 40k and go, what are you playing that for? It's a bloody stupid game. Rules are rubbish. Like, it's on all sides of it. It might be more common from 40k players because there's more 40k players, but you haven't got to associate that with the game. It's not GW's fault that there are elitists playing the game. It's not 40k's fault as a game there are elitists playing the game. Don't confuse the models and the miniatures and the game itself with the people that are playing it. They're two different things, and you have to separate that. It's the same in all walks of life. You get the Sony versus Xbox. You get the Apple versus PC. You get Oasis versus Blur. It's everywhere. Like, so it's not just in miniature gaming, but you have to separate the product from the person. It's the person you've got a problem with. It's not the game you've got a problem with. Krabby saying you should have gone all in and stuck an Ultramarine. I did put an Ultramarine in the image. However, I used it. For those that don't know, basically there was a very famous Barack Obama poster with the word hope along the bottom that was done in the art style that I've used. And I thought to have a bit of a play on that, really, rather than hope, I put hate in there. And I intentionally put hate in there because I knew that basically it would provoke a reaction. And that's exactly what I'm trying to kind of illustrate tonight, is that negativity drives people on both sides. Where if I'd put love in the title, I'd have got loads of haters coming in and just giving me a load of grief, basically, because I'd be saying, oh, isn't Warhammer fantastic? What I'm trying to illustrate with this is that Warhammer is fantastic for the people that love it, and for the people that don't love it, just let those people enjoy their game. That's the thing. Philip Toller in there, bad news spreads fast, same sort of thing. Yeah, 100%, mate, 100%. Super Pumpkin Man says, the only thing that sometimes annoys me about 40k is that 40k night at my local game store is the same night as me and my friends play D&D. Again, mate, it's not the game's fault. It's there's obviously a lot of people come in. Maybe it's really noisy. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe you could go on a different night to play a D&D. Maybe you could go somewhere else to play a D&D. It's not 40K's fault. It's a circumstances thing. Matthew Wiltonson saying, I hate the negative bandwagon. I do too, mate. One of the reasons that my channel is where it is because I don't embrace negativity. I don't go for those clickbait kind of like anger issues. Like, I didn't make any videos about Indomitus selling out because what have I got to add to it? Everybody already knows. What's the point of me going, oh, I didn't get one. I was there at 10 o'clock with all my different web pages open and I missed out. And the company that did it didn't tell me till 7 o'clock at night. So I didn't get a chance to order another. What's the point of me doing that? It would have got loads of clicks just because I'm kind of ranting about it. Like, if I got one and I made a video and went, I got one, why would anybody want to see that? Why would people, I would then have all the people that missing out going, oh, you're just pushing it in our face now. There's no point climbing on that kind of negative bandwagon. It's a route to mental health issues. If you get a buzz out of negativity, you will search out more negativity and you will surround yourself with negative things. And that's not good for anybody. Jason says, my mental health is affected by keeping up with GW releases. I used to complain about not getting enough, but now I'm drowning in it. What makes you think you need to keep up with it, mate? I know people will say, oh, well, these things are kind of limited releases and all this kind of stuff, but you need to be really selective about stuff. Let's assume 90% of us here in the chat tonight, or 99% of us, I would even say, can't afford to buy everything. We certainly don't have enough time to enjoy everything, to play everything, to paint everything, to build everything. So just be more selective. Just put a little bit of money aside. Like, if there's a month where there's nothing comes out, put a little bit of money aside, save a little bit for hobby funds. Just buy the things that you really, really want, as opposed to kind of feeling the need to buy everything. And it's easy said. I've been there myself, but I've seen the light kind of thing. I'm like an evangelist. Is it an evangelist? I can't even get my words out now. Fat Cat said, it's a bit like looking at the 1-star reviews on Amazon. I guess we're naturally drawn to looks good, but what's wrong with it? Or the flip side of it is, if you're a positive person, you will probably ignore the 1-star reviews and go, they don't know what they're talking about. Like, look what happened recently with what's it called? The Last of Us 2. About how sort of people, there were a lot of positive reviews for the game, and then basically 1 or 2 negative ones come through, and everyone jumps on the negative ones and says, the ones that like this game are being paid for their opinions. They can't possibly like this because this person doesn't like it. And then this whole thing, I know there were lots of other things in the background about it, but essentially, from what I understand from the people that I sort of trust, the people that I know personally who've played it, they pretty much liked the game. They weren't up in arms about it. They enjoyed the game. It was a good experience. And that's what happens. People like to kind of black and white, kind of left and right wing. They like to jump on a bandwagon. And unfortunately, sometimes the negative bandwagon is the one that gathers the most steam, really, because it's quite exhausting to defend something all the time. It's easy to point at something and say why it's bad. It's less easy to kind of to stay positive in that. And what tends to happen is people just go, I'm not even going to bother. I'm just going to go and I'm going to enjoy my game, and you lot get on with it. And that's exactly what I kind of found over the weekend. I could see why people get downtrodden trying to kind of fight off negativity, and I can see why people don't want to be part of Facebook groups or don't want to be on Twitter and that kind of stuff. I really got a bit of a glimpse of exactly why that happens. Timbo saying the app probably deserves the hate. It's a bit shit. As I said before, mate, I think if something isn't good, then they deserve the criticism for it. I personally believe it's probably launched before it's ready. There's a few things in it that aren't working, and I'm sure they'll get it right. But I feel bad for the people that have already kind of signed up for it. I think one of the comments was that it was really difficult to actually unsubscribe. There was no way to unsubscribe from it. It feels unfinished, personally, from what I understand, but I am not speaking from a place of knowledge. I'm speaking from what I've seen online and what I've heard and what I've read. There's nothing to say I'm getting the full facts. Until I actually spend my own money and buy it, I'm not really going to have like too much of an opinion on it. It's not something I'm interested in at the moment. I haven't even built models. There's no point me kind of logging into that until I've got these built and painted, because I won't play until I've got these built and painted. So that's kind of where I'm coming at from that point of thing. Matthew says, I've been berated for playing GW games before, also within the community itself for playing Ultramarines. I play Ultramarines, mate. I'm painting Ultramarines up now, and I've had people having to dig at me about it. 2 seconds, my little boy's crying. Let me just make sure that my wife's there. I'm back. Sorry about that. My wife fell asleep, my little boy fell out of bed. Where was I? Yeah, I'm going to just carry on. Luke's in there. Also, back in the day, GW pissed off a lot of people when they dropped the specialist game range, which thankfully they brought back. Right, okay. However, they're a business. Like, and they make business decisions in the same way they dropped Warhammer Fantasy and they started with AOS. It's a business decision. They are a business and they're going to do these things. They obviously had, like, it's all right, people getting annoyed about it, but then there must be some sales reasons why it wasn't beneficial to keep it going. I'm out of breath now, running around there. Scrolling down there now, see if there's any more comments. Oh yeah, we're talking about Ultramarines, wasn't it? Yeah, I've had people giving me grief because I've decided to paint Ultramarines. I've been through all of the different things, all the different factions, deciding, trying to create my own custom chapter. And every single time I just come back to the fact, I love the look of Ultramarines. I love the blue armour. Why should I worry about what other people say? And yes, they're the poster boys. And yes, Marines get all the nice toys, all the new stuff. But I like them. Like, nobody deserves to tell me that I'm painting my Marines the wrong colour. Nobody should tell me that why am I inspired by Primaris Marines? I like them. I think they look fantastic and I'm happy with them, which is why I'm spending my money to buy the things that I like. Why does anybody think that they have that they can basically tell me that I'm wrong? That stuff frustrates me. Lord Maiden saying, yeah, Sega versus Nintendo. Yeah, it's all that kind of stuff, mate, isn't it? I've missed a fair few of these things. Let me just scroll up a little bit. Phil Toller says, Vanguard bases are too small. That's a criticism, mate. That's not hating on the game. That is a genuine criticism. Is anything going to happen about it? No. But at least it's constructive. Like, you're saying that it's too small. You're not just saying the bases are shit. Like, that's not the same thing. Luke says, nobody wants to punch the little guy, but the big faceless company a fair game. This is a really good point. So I mentioned something in our Discord group about there are other companies that I personally don't like their products. I wouldn't buy the miniatures. I wouldn't play their game because they're not designed for me. It's not because they're bad. It's not because I hate them. They're just not designed for my tastes. However, I wouldn't publicly kind of like bash them. Some of those companies are probably one guy, part-time, like he's probably working a full-time job, working every hour God sends, and then he comes home from work and then spends every night and every weekend trying to kind of make his dream come true. Why should I shit all over that? Why should I give him a hard time? Because he's designed a game that was never intended to appeal to the things that I like. And this is the point. So, but people don't kind of hit on the little guy. It's much easier to throw shit at the big ones. Tiberius saying, being fair though, Birds and Badgers and Walking Dead are all at war above God's War games. Luke is exactly the same in board game community. Simon get all the hate. Yeah, Fantasy Flight, they get a lot of hate as well for exactly the same kind of stuff. It's almost like you're this big company, this big bad company with all this money, like this evil corporation, and we're going to criticise every single thing that you do. But let's cut some slack to the kind of the smaller stuff. Palmsy saying GW a fair game because they're big and faceless. You'd be less likely to have a go at Burrows and Badges or the Pirates lot because it's more personal. Yeah, I guess that's kind of coming out of what I was just saying. JVC Payne says jealousy, maybe just straight trolling. I think there's an element of that as well, mate. I think some people do it just to literally get a rise out of people. The sad thing is that people have to, I don't think people really think about what effect it has on the people who just want to love their hobby. Like some people, especially at the minute, like in lockdown and stuff, might not have seen like another soul for months. They've not been able to play a game. They've not been able to go out. People might have had a shield. Have literally not even been to the shop. And then like their hobby might be the one thing that's kind of keeping them together at this time. You know, they're stuck in the house. They've got their hobby they love. They've got some new stuff to look forward to. They're getting all excited for it. And basically just people piling on with negative comments. Like I saw at the weekend how easy it is to get downtrodden by other people's negativity about something that you're passionate about. Like I can understand why people kind of just get like tired of that kind of stuff. Timbo says people probably just want to be validated. There's better ways to be validated though, isn't there, than basically poking holes in somebody else's kind of passion, if you like. Christian sharing a link to the Patreon group there. Thank you very much, Christian. I really appreciate that. If anybody is interested in supporting me, this is my full-time job now, and I don't get paid by companies. That's why I can have personal opinions and say whatever I like. And it's all supported from what the community helped me by doing that as well. So thank you very much, anybody that would like to join. Not Stuck Again says, has he talked about the app yet? I kind of briefly touched on it, mate. And I said that from what I understand about it, it seems a bit unfinished. I think it's a fantastic idea. To me, personally, it's a little bit expensive, but then I've seen plenty of other people who seem like really happy with the price, saying like £4 a month, it's a pint. It's a pint, like my local pub, it's £3.95 for a pint of Peroni. Would I forego 1 pint a month to have the app that would kind of really help me when I play my favourite game? Yeah, probably. But at the stage I'm at personally, I don't have a need for it. I potentially sort of sign up for a month or two to get the codexes for the armies I have until the new codexes come out, rather than buying an old codex or the current one that will soon be overwritten. But for me, I don't think I'm the kind of person that wants that app at the minute. Maybe in time I might feel differently. But yeah, I do feel, from what I understand about it, if their comments are right, it feels like it's been a little bit rushed and that it's not been ready yet. However, I've got an Apple iPhone. It's not available for iOS yet, or it certainly wasn't up there before I started this live stream tonight. So I've not been able to access it myself personally. Andy Smith says, on a different note, I'm painting my Legion minis with contrast paint. I painted mine with contrast paint, mate. It is, yes. Scott says, originally I was a hater of 8th edition due to bad experiences, but 9th has changed that. My army I play now is mostly GW store purchase only. I don't know what your personal bad experiences were, mate. I had bad experiences when somebody tried to teach me the game back in 5th edition, and that's what put me off the game for a long, long time. Even though I still loved the miniatures and I still kind of kept in touch with what was happening, and then more so, obviously, once I started with the YouTube stuff. But yeah, it can only take one bad experience. But I have to say that actually, like looking back now with age and experience, it's not the game that I didn't like. I didn't like the experience of the person that tried to demo the game to me and basically gave me a really bad demo, left a bad taste in my mouth, and basically kind of just lied about the rules to make sure that he won that game. That's not how you entice new people into the game. So it wasn't 40k that I didn't like. It was this person's sort of approach to trying to teach it to me. I should have tried it again, and I didn't. Lord Maiden saying there, yeah, Sega versus Nintendo. Phil saying Oasis versus Blur was pretty manufactured for sales. I'm not suggesting that it wasn't, mate, but like at the end of the day, it's people picking a side, isn't it? It's red versus blue. It's like I think somebody was telling me in the Facebook in the Discord group about like sort of pretty much as old as time is. Like even back in the chariot racing days, there was a red chariot team and a blue chariot team, and like basically they hated each other. The fans of those two teams hated each other. It's built into our DNA to fight your corner and to support one thing and to not like something else. It's how you manifest that, really, I think is the problem. Starkey saying Liverpool versus the rest of the Premier League. Where are we coming down? David Mackay says nothing wrong with a good rant though. Yeah, it's kind of a semi rant, but it's aimed at like I really want. I still haven't really. I haven't seen anybody tell me why they think it's a good idea. Why would you like? And I touch wood here, and I hope it continues. But the chat's been friendly tonight. Like nobody's really come out and just kind of like sort of dumped all over the game, if you like. Because I think the people who come and watch my stuff are positive in general. We do get the odd negative person, but in general, it's really like it's a positive community, which is what surprised me. I think with the 40K stuff, like people are quite happy while we're talking about Dead Zone, or they're quite happy while we're talking about like another kind of like another game. But as soon as 40K comes up, it's happened a couple of times recently. Like, look what happened in the poll when we were voting about like what the next slow grow should be. Part of the reason I've not even like sort of like said what the next slow grow is going to be was because the whole thing kind of left a bitter taste in my mouth. Like the people that were like, oh, if it's 40K, I'm not doing it. And it's like when I said it was Dead Zone, nobody bitched about Dead Zone. When I started the Kings of War campaign, nobody bitched, oh, Kings of War, I'm not doing that. They just said to themselves in their own heads in silence, oh, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to take part. It's not a game I play. But as soon as 40K looked like, oh, well, it's 40K, it's always going to be the most popular. But that wasn't necessarily the case, because in our group, there's not necessarily a lot of 40K players. Yes, there's probably some more now because there's a new games, like a new edition coming out, and people are excited about it. And then there was things happened to try and kind of derail that. And these are the kind of things that I want to kind of squash them within my community. I don't want people to be kind of to basically take the enjoyment away from other people who just want to enjoy their hobby. I don't care what game you play, as long as you're having fun about it. It doesn't really matter. But I'm not sort of in any support of people that will basically come and tell you that you're doing it wrong. Loads of videos I've made, I've talked about like never let anybody tell you that you're doing your hobby wrong. And it's starting to creep in areas, and it's all because of 40K, which is what prompted this conversation. Generic Edgelord, it's a good name anyway. He says, negativity isn't art. Assuming things will go wrong is always the best way, since it's usually the result. I think that's bollocks, mate. You should never assume things are going to go wrong. You should assume the best and plan for the worst, but you should always assume the best. Like if you expect negative things to happen, negative things will happen. So what you're saying is that assume it's going to go wrong, and it will, because what you've done is you've put your energy into focusing on the thing that's going to go wrong. It's like if you're riding a motorbike. If you look at where you are, you will crash that bike. If you look ahead and you look where you want to go, the bike will flow. The bike will follow that line, and it will follow to the point where you want to be. And I think life's like that. If you keep looking at oh, well, I might fall off, I might crash, this is going to go wrong, things will go wrong, because that's where you're putting your energy and that's where you're putting your focus. If you look ahead down the path and look at success, that's generally what will happen, because you're putting your focus and your energy into it. Luke says, are you drinking Star Wars blue milk? No, mate, I'm drinking just white milk. I think it's the blue from the background there, mate. I think that's what's making it look a bit blue. But no, it's just normal milk. I love milk. Milk is my favourite drink. Palmsy's saying Andy's seen the light, he's getting the band back together. Excuse me. Jonathan Wyborn says, I watch The Outer Circle for my fill of hate. It gives an interesting perspective on my hobby. Some of his points are well made. I've got no idea who it is. I've never seen any of the videos. Scott says, I do my best to be constructive with my criticism, but sometimes, especially in regards to 40K, I lose sight of the fact I don't need to be negative. I honestly can't tell you why. I appreciate you kind of saying that, mate, to be fair. And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, we all kind of, like, we all... I think sometimes you can become negative because you're passionate about something, and it can be misinterpreted. You try to defend your position, and with that comes an element of negativity. And I think that's like we all have that kind of ability in us. It's the people that like just almost that kind of like that troll level. Like why is that? Let's look a bit further down. Pomsy saying Outer Circle seems to me to be hate for hate's sake, but if you like that, it's totally fair. I think I think it's like we've talked about tonight. Hate and negativity will get you far more clicks than positivity. It's like I said before, it's the reason I tailored the thumbnail and the title tonight to illustrate the point. There's 141 people in the chat tonight. And it's proven the point that I kind of made. I've talked about positivity all night and about why hate, like why we shouldn't have hate, why you shouldn't hate on other people's, like, the things that they love, if you like. And yet I've proved my point by kind of putting something that contextually could be classed as negative in the title. Where was that coming? Bobby Clark says, perhaps the haters are people who've been on social media for too long that week. I limit mine to prevent me going mad. Others go all in. I literally type the first thoughts for the world to read. I know exactly what you mean, mate. Especially during lockdown, all I saw online was negative comments. All I saw was, like, not from gaming, just like in the news about coronavirus, about lockdown. It was just negativity thrown down your neck every day. There was never a kind of, even now that things are starting to get better in the UK and the death toll has come down massively, and obviously people are still dying and that's horrendous, but it's come down to such a low point. Like, for example, in the area of the UK where I live, there are 2 cases of coronavirus in the whole area, in the whole of the region. There are 2 cases of coronavirus. It's minuscule now. But obviously we all have to stay alert and all that kind of stuff and take care. But nobody's talking about the fact that there's some positive stuff coming out of this now. Nobody's talking about the kind of the good stuff. Now all they're doing, now the news have shifted that issue now to, right, let's blame the government for something now, or what about this, or this should have been done faster. Like, they're constantly looking for the negative stuff to talk about. It's everywhere. You can't avoid it, and you will send yourself mad if you only surround yourself with negative stuff. Timbo Clevson, we had a Sonic World thing in London years ago. I remember going there, mate. I think was it called Sega World, actually? I remember it was awesome. Lord Maiden says, what about Marmite? Their whole ad campaign is about loving it or hating it, but not just liking it. I think it's a tongue-in-cheek thing, isn't it? Nobody gets up in arms about Marmite. It's because it's like, it has that kind of, it's a taste that, like, nobody goes, Marmite, oh yeah, it's all right, I have it now and again kind of thing. It's about that polarising thought, isn't it? Like, for me, a lot of this kind of, I saw it, like, around the whole Brexit time, really. I think was the first time that the extremes of yes, no, stay, leave, black, white, not from a race perspective, I should add, just kind of the polar opposites that really started to kind of, like, I started to see them. And it's as if, as a country now and as a culture, we are driven to take a side. And like, that's a whole different topic and it's a whole different thing. But yeah, it's weird that. Generic Edgelord says, The Last of Us 2 is the last Jedi of gaming, though, and they do get paid for the positivity since they get paid for in favours. Getting paid for in favours, mate, does not put food on the table. Like, it's one of the reasons I've set the channel up like I've set the channel up. If I got paid by companies to do a review, even if I'm being as honest as I can, there's always an element of people will say, well, you're just being paid, right? People should get paid for their time. It takes a lot of time to prepare a review. Like, it takes a lot of time and effort to paint models and to build them and to put them together and to film a video and to edit it and put it together. That kind of thing takes time. And if you're doing it, if that's your job, like it is mine, then somewhere along the line there has to be some kind of money comes into it. And that's why I want to be supported, and I am supported by the community. I'm supported by the people watching, because what that does, that keeps me independent, and it keeps me away from those people that would say, well, he's only saying nice things because he's getting paid for it. Like, however, at the end of the day, I don't think they get paid for positivity. They get paid for their opinion. Some might be influenced, but not all of them. You wouldn't get so, like the Last Jedi is a prime example. I quite enjoyed it. Is it the best Star Wars film ever? Definitely not. Is it the best film ever? 100% it's not. Was it a good film to just kind of take my kids to and sit with a bowl of popcorn and watch some like switch my brain off for a couple of hours? Yeah. It's Star Wars and I enjoy Star Wars. There doesn't have to be this extremes of The Last of Us 2 is the best game ever, or The Last Jedi is the best film ever, or the best Star Wars ever. It can just be what it is. And I think sometimes that gets lost. And I think that's with a lot of things these days. Marco says, shall we talk about DC Bird of Prey movie? I haven't seen it, mate. But again, I'm somebody else that actually quite enjoyed Suicide Squad. I'm a big fan of the comic books. It's nice to see the comic book characters that I've read about. It's nice to see them on the big screen. Again, was it a perfect movie? Of course not. But then there was kind of movies are never going to be kind of thought-provoking. They're meant to be loud explosions, bright lights and colours, switch your brain off. Let's not get away from what they're meant to be. So, Bortaloos Live to Win says, hey Andy, hello there, how you doing? JVC Payne saying, I think the social media angle is a huge factor. It seems to me that people who are really into social media are generally miserable. There's an element of what you're saying there is right. If you surround yourself with negativity all the time and you keep going back and you feed off it and then you feed into it, you will generally your mental health will take a battering and you will generally be in a bad place and be quite negative and be quite depressed, for want of a better word. However, it's part of my job to be on social media. I have to be on Facebook, I'm on Discord, and I'm on Twitter, and I'm on Instagram, and I'm on live on YouTube and all this kind of stuff. But I choose to be positive. I choose to see the good in things. I choose not to talk about the negative stuff. And maybe that's a trait in me, but I honestly feel that if more people turned their back on the negative stuff and didn't get I get embroiled into stuff. I said in our Discord chat the other day, what am I doing? I'm getting myself stuck into these stupid conversations that I have no place in being in. And it's not because I'm being negative, it's because I'm trying to defend a positive aspect. So I can get drawn into this from the complete opposite side of things. Thordelum says, the feeling to buy everything came from the really slow release GW used to have, so people played more of their games. Now they started supporting and releasing new things for all the games at once. But you don't have to play all the games, mate. This is the whole thing. It's still a choice. It is still it's still an opportunity for you to buy or to not buy, to play or to not play, to not buy this new army because I don't play it, even though there's a new box come out for it. I don't have to buy it. I don't feel the need to buy every single thing. If let's just, for example, I've got Necrons in front of me. Let's just say I play Necrons now, right? Would I feel the need to buy every single Necron release? Maybe over time, but I don't need to buy them all now, this second. My intention going forward, and it's the way I've been managing to do this for almost a year now, is I'm not buying anything new for this army until I've painted what I've got. That doesn't mean I'm not painting something for a different game. I always play a lot of different games. But I don't feel the need to have to buy every single thing. I said I wasn't buying this Indomitors box set unless I had all of the stuff for 40k, for my Marines already painted. And that was motivation enough for me to get it done. I personally can't see this I have to buy everything thing. I don't know what triggers that, basically. It's got to be fear of missing out. That's all it can be. Iron's in the chat as well. Good evening, Iron. Says 40k and GW take a lot of flack due to being the default minis game and things they do are cast upon the hobby at large. I think that comes with their size, mate. And to be fair, other miniatures companies have a lot to thank GW for as well. If it wasn't for GW having a presence on the high street, if it wasn't for GW becoming as big as they've become, if it wasn't for sort of some of the people that used to work for GW and basically learned their trade there and then went elsewhere and took what they knew and started their own companies, a lot of the hobby as we know it wouldn't exist. The fact that GW have this large game at 40k. 40k is by no means the perfect game. It's not you only need to play 40k and that's it. That's created opportunities for other people to have areas of the market and for them to come up with better ways to do stuff. Is 40k the best rule set ever? Absolutely not. But is it fun and are the miniatures good? Yeah. As long as you're having fun, it doesn't really matter, and that's the kind of thing. So it's all right to kind of point the finger at them and say that, basically, well, it's just they're the default thing. If it wasn't for 40k, if it wasn't for certainly from me growing up and from my local area, if it wasn't for a GW store, I probably wouldn't have got into the hobby because there aren't any other real hobby stores around me. Or they certainly wasn't for a large portion of time. The fact that they are now is largely off the back that the hobby has grown in scale on the back of some of what 40k and what GW have done, really. Jamie Newton, good evening to you, mate. Phil Torres says Smurf fans are the worst. To you, Phil. GVC says, we almost had a chair stream. Yeah, it was only for a couple of minutes. My little boy fell out of bed. So, yeah, my wife is absolutely flat out. Phil Torres said, I think GW were guilty of releasing too much too fast for Kill Team, I'm honest. Yeah, I don't disagree, mate. I thought they released a lot quite quickly as well. And I got burned out by it because I decided not to keep up. I also think it was a confusing release. It's all right looking back on it now, but at the time it was a confusing release. They released a lot for Warcry when Warcry came out, and I bought all the things that I wanted to buy. I didn't buy everything, but I bought all the things I wanted to buy. And I love that game. I'm a big fan of Warcry. So I think sometimes it's to do with how they explain those sort of products to you as well. Like, for example, Aeronautica Imperialis. It looks really interesting. It's a game I'd quite like to try. I'm not sure what the difference is now between the two different sets that they sent out. Is it the same game? Are they just different models inside, like different factions? Is it different rules? It's not that clear to me, to be fair. Generated Lord says, my problem is 40k is the comparison of power between Primaris and other faction. Like, even the Eldar has problems with keeping up, and those problems are getting worse. So if that's the case, why does everybody go on about how Tau is overpowered and how Tau is the filth? Like, Primaris are that kind of middle line, aren't they? Really, basically, it's the same in any game. There is always that faction that is kind of like the point that everything else works away from. Whether it's more powerful in this, but it's kind of less powerful in that, and that's what happens. And the fact that Space Marines are by far the biggest selling model range. That's where they're going to invest their time. That's where they're going to invest their money. That's why we're going to always see more stuff for it. For me, somebody new coming to 40k, one of the attractions of Space Marines is the fact that I like them, and I know there's always going to be loads of stuff to buy for it. So you can be kind of anti-Primaris or anti-Space Marine or whatever it is, but at the end of the day, every game has this. Like, if you go to AOS, Stormcast for a long time were that kind of center line that everything else works out from. If you look at like other games, they have their poster boys, they have their main factions, if you like. Krabby says, when mobile phones came out, they were a bit shit. When MySpace started, it was a bit shit. Jumping all over stuff to hammer them is ridiculous. If you don't have anything positive to contribute, then don't contribute. I think the difference is, mate, is when something new comes out and it's the first of its kind, you don't focus on the negatives, you focus on the amazing stuff. The difference is like this 40k app that's come out, there are other apps that do a better job at the same thing. Because personally, it doesn't feel finished. That doesn't mean it won't be fantastic. That doesn't mean they won't put time and effort in to improve it. But I think, sadly, it's fell below the expectation. If they'd given it to everybody for a month for free to try it out, and to iron out all those kinks, I think people would give them a bit more leeway. But expecting people to pay from day one for something that doesn't do all of the things that it's supposed to do yet, like you can't do the list building, you can't access the rules, all that kind of stuff, that's not in there from the start. And I think that's where people have a genuine complaint with that one. Dark Angels forever, best Marine faction. Pomsy said, if it wasn't for GW, we probably wouldn't even be in the hobby. I think there's an element of that, mate. I mean, I certainly wouldn't be, I don't think. I can't speak for everybody, but certainly for me, I think. Standard Tabletop says, Ultramarine Hate is just an extension of Marine Hate, which is an extension of 40k Hate. There's an element of that, mate, to be absolutely fair. Excuse me while I have a drink. Just seeing the comments coming through there. Where are we up to? I've kind of lost my... But there's a load of chat just come through there all at once. I'm going to dive back in. Lord Maiden says, you and the BlackJack Legacy community put some positivity in my life. Yes, there's been a lot of negativity recently, and due to the situation, negative feelings have blown up. It's been worse. Yeah, and I want to knock that on the head, mate. I want to make sure that that's not where it goes. It's always about positivity for me, like with this group. That's exactly where it should be. It should be a happy place to come. It doesn't matter if you don't like somebody else's game. Just you don't have to tell them. It's like when somebody paints a miniature, and like you see in some groups where someone will go, Oh, well, that's awful. I can paint better than that. You don't need that. Like, just scroll by. You don't have to comment. Somebody commented in the Facebook group today, like, oh, like, why is it that every group's got all this? Like, I wish there was a way to block out all this new Warhammer stuff. It's in every group. And I commented saying, like, you do know you don't have to look at it, and you definitely don't have to comment on it. Like, it's almost like people want to be annoyed sometimes. Sean says, but it costs 2 to 3 times more, and anyone with any sense can see that, and that's where the hate comes from. I don't think it does cost 2 to 3 times more. It might in certain countries, right? So I kind of cut some slack for that. But within the UK, it's relatively comparative to a lot of other games. Like, look, I think somebody's just mentioned to me about Marvel Crisis Protocol down there. That's one of the most expensive individual kind of miniatures games I think I've seen. Like, a Star Wars Legion starter box is like 75 quid. Like, the models are no sort of better than the GW stuff. Like, Mantic's got their new Vanguard starter sort of set out. That's like 75 quid. I honestly, yes, they might be a little bit more expensive, but there's lots of reasons why they're a little bit more expensive. One, certainly from my point of view, the quality is better. The fact that it's all produced in the UK and it's not made like cheap labour over in China is one of the reasons why it's more expensive. The fact that they have a massive kind of infrastructure and they have a lot of support functions and everything else rather than like 3 or 4 men in a factory is another reason why they cost a bit more. It's easy to say, oh yeah, well, they're making massive profits. That's their job. They have set the prices that the market is willing to pay. If they thought that people would pay more, they probably have to put their prices up higher as well. But it's still a choice. You don't have to hate something because it's expensive. Ferraris are expensive. They're still just a car. Like, you still have to drive the speed limit in them. But people pay lots and lots of money for that. James Bray donated. Thank you very much, mate. Do we all have to hug at the end of the stream? We can have a hug now, mate. We can have a hug now. So yeah, you know what? Like, so it's like when people get up in arms about like Apple products, or they get up in arms about, I don't know, like designer clothes. Like, a designer t-shirt is still just a t-shirt, but like, are we all going to go and like bitch on Louis Vuitton or something like that, or Gucci? It's one of those things. Like, they're not meant to be for everybody. Like, and I know this is probably not a very popular thing to say, but games are not designed for everybody in the world. Like, everything is. They're not a charity. They're a business, and they set the price at which the market will pay. And if the market wouldn't pay that, if we all said it's too expensive, we're not paying that, then the price would come down to something that they would afford. Until it came down to a point where actually they'd say it's not even worth us manufacturing it at this cost. But like like, from my perspective, you have to bear in mind the fact that they are a British company and they manufacture in Britain. There are very few companies do their manufacturing kind of in their home country, and the ones that do, they cost a little bit more money. Look at Infinity. Infinity miniatures are not cheap. All of their miniatures are made in Spain in their own factory. It pushes the price up. Krabby says, I always enjoy a debate. My only caveat is that if you want to debate with me, you must be open to both sides of the debate, because that's a debate and I don't really like arguing with people. Yeah, it's never an argument, mate, and that's the whole point. Like I want to, this is why I'm asking people to kind of to tell me why they feel a different way. I want to learn. Maybe I've got it wrong. Maybe hate's the way to go. I want to learn. I want to understand the other side. Brian saying, you keep losing points, Andy. First Smurfs and now you're like less Jedi. Unsubscribe. I tell you what, mate, you don't have to agree with me. This is the whole point. Nobody has to agree with me. Like, I don't want this to be an echo chamber. Like, everybody likes to like different stuff. That's the whole point. Phil Toller says, I like the Green Lantern. There you go, mate. And Daredevil. Christian says, people are forgetting that the price of GW miniatures aren't just paying for the minis, you're paying for the business overheads. Exactly, mate. Just like what I've just been talking about there. Jez Hunt says, Caravan of Courage. I don't even know what that is, mate. I'm sure that's part of some different conversation. Sean says, you need hundreds of orcs in a single box of just 10 to 15 of them is $50. Yeah, you do. You don't have to play them. You don't have to play orcs, mate. You can buy orcs from a different company if you want. If you want to play orcs, buy orcs from a cheaper company, one that manufactures out in China and ships them in bulk, and the sculpts are not quite as nice. Like, there are price points for everybody. Unless you play in a GW shop or you play GW tournaments, don't feel you have to buy GW products. You can buy whatever you want. If you think GW products are too expensive but you love the game, buy them from Mantic, buy them from Spellcrow, buy them from somewhere else. But if you also think the models are too expensive, don't play an army that you need hundreds and hundreds of models for. I'm struggling a little bit with that, Sean, because basically you can point the finger at the company saying it's all their fault kind of thing, but you're picking a company whose models are a bit more expensive, and you're picking a faction to play that needs more models. So it's kind of it's a bit of a double-edged sword there, isn't it? JVC Paint says, off to work, it's been fun, take care, thank you very much, mate. Tony says, GW have introduced patrol to decrease the number of models. It's one of the reasons I'm massively excited for 9th edition, mate. The fact that actually 500-point games or 50-point power levels are in that book now. There are table sizes designed to play those smaller games. If they hadn't put them in and said, well, but you can if you want, nobody would play them. Like the chapter, not chapter approved, the tournament pack that comes with chapter approved now, I forget what it's called, has got tournament stuff in there for 1,000-point games. We might actually start to see 1,000-point tournaments now. Like, that would be amazing, just to have that lower entry point to allow people to build up to big 2,000-point games at a later point. Sean's saying there, they upped the price of everything by 10 or 12%. They've had a price rise. They've put the prices up. Again, we don't have to buy stuff. It'll not be long before every other company starts to put their prices up because of look at what's happening in the UK now with the stuff with China over the is it called Huawei, however it's called, all the stuff that's coming out. There's going to be kind of sanctions coming in about importing and manufacturing in China. There's going to be all sorts of stuff come through from that, and it'll push the price up. It'll push the price up of importing sort of Chinese products. And then all of those UK companies, like the likes of Mantic and everybody else who get those plastic stuff in from China, they'll all put their prices up as well. Like, it's just business. It still comes down to the point that if the market won't pay the price, nobody will buy them. Kodo says, just got a message from a friend. He just wanted to start 40k and used the made to order and is now pissed because of the bad timing with the new starter sets. It's funny, actually, because we discussed this today as well, and I said I think there's going to be a few people who's going to be annoyed about this. However, again, I will say that GW never said this was a starter set. They said it was a launch set. It was designed for kind of like experienced or 40k players, if you like. I guess most people knew there were starter sets coming. That they were always going to have a starter set at some point. And the set that he's bought, you can still start playing with. There's 1,000 points of Marines and 1,000 points of Necrons in there. There is the rule book, which is a nice big weighty toy. It's a huge book. I couldn't believe just how big it was. It's the bulk of the weight inside the box. It's huge. So you've got all of the rules you need. You've got all the models in there, enough to make 2 different factions. And I actually think, from a UK perspective, like, I paid £100 for that box in the UK. There was way more than £100 worth of stuff in that box. It's £40 for this book at retail. So I can imagine if I can imagine being a bit peeved because you think, oh well, if I knew it was coming, I would have waited. But that's just kind of, that's marketing, isn't it? That's, like, don't share everything. Sean saying, yeah, you don't need to buy it, but it's silly to say that because there's nothing else like Warhammer. Okay, let me flip that back to you then, Sean. So what you're saying is you absolutely love the game. There's nothing else like it. It's a game I love, but it's too expensive. So I could relate that to anything in life and say, I could say, I can't afford a Ferrari, but there's nothing like it in the world. So they need to reduce the price so I can have one. That's essentially what you're trying to say. I've given you some other options. You don't have to buy GW miniatures. You don't have to play an army that needs hundreds and hundreds of models. This is what I mean about like kind of we can blame the game for the things we don't like, but actually it's our choice. It's in our power. It's in your power to do something about it. You can still play that game with other companies' miniatures. You can still play that game with another faction. Like maybe I'm missing the point. Maybe I'm missing the point. Phil says, I love you too. Tony Tiger said, I've just paid £30 for 2 Burrs and Badges models without anyone to play against. Yeah, that's my point. God, how far behind am I? I'm about 15 minutes behind the chat now. Sean's saying the price isn't the main issue. I'm just seeing what I see. Okay, Sean, so tell me what the main issue is then, because so far you've talked about how expensive it is, how they're more expensive than everybody else, and how you need loads of models for that. So if that's not the main issue, then tell me what it is. And then Sean's saying there, the hate comes from how GW do their business. Again, don't have to buy it. You don't have to like it. Like, let's be honest, Google's not exactly the most ethical company in the world, and yet we all use their search engines, and we all, like, Facebook's not the most ethical company in the world. We're all quite happy to go on there because it's for free. If they charged us instead of selling our data, people might feel differently about it. Scroll down. Let me have a quick look. Kodos says, problem is more like that made to order is dated for October. So to start playing, you need to wait or buy another box. Okay, so there's going to be boxes everywhere. Trust me, companies are starting to get their second waves in now, right? The company I bought this from got their second wave in on Friday. They're going to be everywhere. Personally, if it was me now, I'd be looking to cancel my made to order purchase, and I would just go and buy it from a local hobby store. I think you're going to start to find they're going to be much more widely available. Somebody shared a picture with me today that was just boxes and boxes of the stuff on a table in a GW shop, like ready just for sale, basically, just to be able to go and buy. So I think it's kind of like, I think if you can get out of a made to order thing now, you're probably more likely to be able to pick one up. And if you can't pick one up, then basically, yeah, you're going to be able to get one of these starter boxes. Jez says, I hand make bespoke leather work. Sometimes for film and TV, I have to charge £120 for a bag. I can't afford my work. I love to charge less, but that's the cost, and I make very little cash. Craftsmanship, mate, and good quality materials costs money. Like, do GW make the best quality miniatures in the market? Quite probably. You might not like the style of them, but you can't fault the kind of, like, the quality of them, if you like. Do they use really good plastic compared to some other companies? Yeah, I think they do. Like, do they pay their manufacturers a good wage? Like, do they pay their workers a good wage? They do, because they don't. They could go and just set up a cheap factory in China and outsource all of this, but they don't. There's lots of things like that, and I agree with you, Jez. Like, you deserve a good wage for the effort and the quality of the thing you make. If people aren't willing to pay it, then either your materials are too expensive, your quality's not good enough, or there just isn't a market for it. That's just industry. That's life, isn't it? So you charge what people will pay. If people wouldn't pay £120, you wouldn't charge that. Yeah, you would just say it's not worth me making one. So yeah, I agree with you, mate. King John says, I got some monkey miniatures to run Imperial Guard. Nice one, mate. Sean says, imagine if milk costed 3 times more than whatever else you like, but all of a sudden milk just isn't for you, which is a cop-out, kind of. No, that's not the case, mate. Like, if there's something that I like but I can't afford it, then I won't buy it. That's just the end. That's just life. Like, for example, I quite like champagne, but I ain't going to drink it every weekend. Like, I might have it for a special occasion or something like that, or I might save up to buy a bottle of it. I like really nice cigars and whiskey. I can't afford to buy them all the time, but maybe as a Christmas treat or maybe as a birthday treat. All I'm saying is just because something is expensive doesn't mean I have the God-given right to have it. Like, it's a really kind of narrow view to say that because I want something, I should be able to have it. Like, if you really want something, you either got to save up for it, you got to work, like, you know, work overtime and all them kind of stuff. You need to try and save up for something that you really like, or you need to accept that I can't afford it and I'm going to buy something else instead. Like you said yourself, you've bought a 3D printer now, so you come up with a different solution, and that's fine. Like, it's not kind of like, it's not exclusive to exclude people on the basis of price. That is just industry. That's commercial products. It's like, if I can't justify spending £2,500 on a MacBook Pro for what I want, so I've bought a PC that is cheaper, like a PC laptop that's cheaper. Would I like a MacBook Pro to do all the bits of software and stuff that I do with editing and all that kind of stuff? Of course I would, but I can't justify it. I don't think they should just drop the price so that I can have one. That's kind of the point I'm trying to make, really. Super Pumpkin Man says, as an artist, I have to find a balance of good materials and how much I charge for on a commission. Yeah, that's exactly it, mate, isn't it? There is a limit to what people will pay. Carol's in as well. Good evening, Carol. Says, also, they screwed Eastern Europe with the Indomitus box. Can't get a second wave when first wave was 10 boxes or not per store. I don't know the details about that kind of stuff. I can only assume that basically, like, there was that basically I can imagine the shipping costs of moving it further out across the world when they're all made in the UK kind of like limits whereabouts it kind of where it's profitable as a business to send it to. Where we are. Six in the Head says you can wear Jordans or you can wear high tech. You're paying for the brand, but they do the same job. Yep, like I said before, mate. Yeah, it's about China choice and stuff. VG says, Andy, switch to dad mode. If you want something, son, you have to work hard and save your money. Well, that's what I have to do. Like, this is what you have to do in life. Like, Nostock again donated. Thank you very much. He says, do YouTube take a cut of this? They do, mate. They take 40% of it. That tells you how, talking about big companies. But by the same stretch, if YouTube didn't allow me to do this for free, I wouldn't get any of that donation. So I thank you very much for it. Thank you so much. Bone Ripper says, right now I can't afford the new 40k box set, but love to own it. But like Andy says, that's life. Yeah, it's like, it's not, I don't even want to come across kind of like as if this kind of, you should just, like, we should just have more money kind of thing. Unfortunately, in life, not everybody can afford everything. Otherwise, we would all have exactly the same things. We'd all have exactly the same amount of money. That's not how life is. Like, you have to pick and choose your priorities kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? And unfortunately, that's not me. That's not me trying to be kind of like sort of like snobby or elitist or anything like that. It's just a fact. Like, it's just life. Mark O says, budget your money, get it out or find a cheaper hobby. It's like, I'm not even saying people should give it up. If 40k is the game that you absolutely love and you've played it for years, I'm not sure if 40k has really got like massively out of control from a cost point of view. Because if you've been playing for years, you've probably already got loads of models anyway, so you've already got one foot in the door. But I don't think it's suddenly kind of like, I don't think it's sort of like got exponentially expensive. Yes, it's gone up in price, but everything's gone up in price. Like the fuel I put in the car's gone up in price. My electric bills have gone up in price. Like, everything's gone up in price kind of thing. So I'm sure there is a point where people on lower incomes get priced out of the game. I understand that, but then, like I say, that basically that's when you have to either adjust what you do. You adjust where your money goes. You adjust the models you buy. You adjust how many models you buy. You adjust the army that you play. You might sell an old army that you don't play with to fund a new one. You just have to cut your cloth. I mean, the only money I earn is what I earn from what I do now. I don't have another job. This is my job. I'm not even on minimum wage. Like, I don't earn minimum wage kind of thing. But I'm doing something I absolutely love. And I made that choice. I had a job working in a corporate job that made me plenty of money. But I chose to kind of forego some of the stuff that I want, the frivolous stuff, the kind of the luxury stuff. I decided to forego some of that to kind of be happy and to do what I want to do. Sometimes you've got to kind of cut your cloth to that kind of stuff. But what was that? Bobby Clark just said something about having your army nerfed. Having your army nerfed, points increase, waiting ages for new sculpts, it just brews a nice cup of nerd rage for a minority of hobbyists. Adapt and move on, or throw toys out the pram are the options. Yeah, and I think that, but do armies really get nerfed? Like, the game is about having fun at the end of the day, and it's not like they basically kind of stop you playing with your toys. They don't make like a model extinct. They don't stop you playing with that model in 40k. Waiting ages for new sculpts. They're not going to do everything at once, are they? They don't have any points for models that don't exist. They might have some old models, and those old models might be expensive, but they exist. And then again, it is your choice to either to buy them or not buy them or whatever. Jared Harris says, agreed, I can't afford a new Raver Titan right now, so I'm going to save it for a couple of months. I don't have a right to it, but I would like it. Yeah. And that's the same for every single one of us. Nobody has a right to something. Just because I want something doesn't mean like I'm entitled to it. Kodos says, yeah, I did not go with the hype and rushed in for orders, but waited for some of those who did feel cheated and are now negative about 40k because of how the launch was handled. I do feel that there's been some kind of misunderstanding as well a little bit, I think, on some. I'm not suggesting in your case or your friend's case, but I think there's some misunderstanding of how it's been handled, of what this box set was. I think there was always going to be a starter set coming, if you like. Tiberius says, comparing models to shoes isn't like for like. It's a better comparison to say having a high quality lithographic print of a painting versus a B&M bargain canvas. I don't agree, mate. You can buy a GW Orc, or you can buy an Orc from another retailer that are different prices. They still do the same job. Like they still represent a token on a board. You can cut out a piece of cardboard and put it on a board, and it hasn't cost you a penny to represent an Orc. But it's not very nice, is it? Like that's really the extremes of it, really. Lucy, I don't even play 40k. What the hell am I doing here? Standard tabletop says 40%. Bloody hell, 60% and nothing is still nothing. Exactly, mate. So 60% of something is something. VG Mort says, I didn't know YouTube took 40% of super chats. Yeah, they do, mate. If you read the terms and conditions and stuff, they take 40% of any membership stuff as well. But if it wasn't for members, I wouldn't make any money. So if everybody said, I'm not doing a super chat because I don't want YouTube to get any money from it, I don't want Google to get any money from it, then I don't get any money from it either. That's kind of how it works. It's one of the reasons why I kind of recommend or I ask people to support me through Patreon, because yes, Patreon take a fee, but their cut is much smaller. So if you give €5 to me, or $5 to me, or £5 to me through Patreon, I see more of that than I do if it comes through YouTube. That's kind of how it works. Sean saying, I guess my point was the price is high for no reason other than people will pay it. Some people, which excludes it from others who could buy it if the company wasn't like how they are. It's the same point, mate. The price is the price because that's what the market dictates. It's like if you want to buy Grey Goose vodka, if you want to buy Johnny Walker Black Label whiskey, like all of these things are set at a premium price. They might have better ingredients. They might have spent a lot more money on branding and marketing and all that kind of stuff. There's a number of different reasons. Or you can buy supermarket own brand. Just because you want something that is expensive doesn't mean it should be reduced in price so you can afford it. That's not market dynamics. They're a business. I said right at the start of the chat tonight. They are a business. They have shareholders. They're in this to make money. They're not a charity. And I'm really sorry if somebody can't afford it. I'm not sort of like singling people out to say well, you better just try harder kind of thing. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that This is a product that sells on a shelf, and that's what it costs. And you can choose to pay it, or you can choose to not pay it. That's what it is, really. Carol's saying they prioritise US and UK, then Western EU. That is life. Would have nice to be treated as other EU countries. Greece isn't nearer to UK than Czech Republic. I've got no idea, mate. I don't know how they did it. I'm not working for GW. I don't know the details, mate. Just because says, hello, before we start any hobby, we need to understand the nature of the hobby and we make a wise decision. In the end of the day, it's a hobby and we should go slowly into it. I agree, mate. Any hobby, no matter whether it's photography, whether it's fishing, whether it's airsoft, whether it's miniature gaming, do not jump in with both feet. You test the water, you try something, see if you like it, and you kind of build up from there. One of my mates loves to go diving. The money he spends on diving equipment absolutely pales in comparison to to what I spend on miniature gaming as a hobby. Like he'll quite happily spend £500 or £600 on a torch for diving. Like he buys a boat. He spends £11,000 on a new motor for his boat. It's a completely different thing. But that's what he does on a Sunday versus what I do on a Sunday, kind of thing. That's just hobbies, isn't it? I could never afford to have that as a hobby, no matter how much I would like to go and give it a try. Excuse me. Brian saying, I bought 2 Titans from Dreamforge Games because I think the GW Knights are way too high. I got 2 Knight variant size with 3 extra arms plus shipping for $120. So I do look at other companies. And that's it, man. It might not even be because you think it's expensive. You might just like another company has a nicer design. Like, that's what I mean. You buy the things you like and the things you can afford. Busey saying, I'm waiting for the new BlackJack air trainers that are coming out. Shh. Jared says, you can save money with 40k by buying models badly painted second hand and stripping the paint. The only downside is no sub-assemblies. Yeah, that's a fair point, mate, yeah. Super Pumpkin Man says, sometimes people just need to calm down. Yeah, sometimes they do, mate. Sometimes they do. Well, I must have jumped a little bit there. Carol says, I hope GW never goes to play at home mode. My part of the world is store play only, being like that since the 80s when the hobby started. They just want people to play, mate. They don't really care where you play. They just want people to buy their models and play their game, basically. Sean saying, yeah, I chose not to pay it myself. Tony Tiger says, 40% they make Games Workshop sound like angels. At least they produce the content. To be fair, I'm sure that their servers and stuff cost quite a lot of money to run as well. Mark Q said, admittedly, I remember fondly long ago when 20 guardsmen costed as 10 guardsmen do today. Yeah, and I bet if you're a smoker, you'll remember what 10 cigarettes cost versus what 10 cigarettes cost today, or 20 cigarettes used to cost versus 20 cigarettes today. Some things just go up in price. Peter says, not giving up my member, mate. Brian Chin says, content of GW box games exceeded their price by a big margin. I also don't mind paying extra for product made in the UK, EU and North America. Sean says, I understand why people get upset. I do not get upset because I just buy whatever I want to buy unless I can't, and then I don't. In that case, mate, we completely agree. That's kind of what I'm saying. It's one, like, it's kind of another thing as well, is you don't need to get upset on behalf of other people, if you like. Do you know what I mean? Like, let those people worry about their problems, and like otherwise, there's a lot of kind of hate online. I think this conversation comes up quite a lot online about, oh, it's disgusting. It should be for everybody. Like, the price should be lower so everybody could play. And then, like, those people that are shouting about that sometimes are the ones that go, oh, well, actually, like, I'm a lawyer. I've got loads of money. Like, I'm not really bothered about it. I just buy what I want. So there's two sides to it sometimes. Jason said, just searched Hero Quest on eBay. Holy Moses, that's quite the prize Andy is giving away. Yes, I am giving away a fully painted copy of Hero Quest as soon as I've finished painting the last few models to my Patreons. So yeah, it's not too late to get in on that. So you can join the Patreon, $2 a month. I do get to see most of that. Yeah, and then you can enter the competition as well. Thank you, mate. Super Pumpkin Man says, my job pays nothing, so I save money in order to buy non-priority stuff. Yeah, and I kind of basically, it's one of the reasons why I cut myself off from buying anything for 6 months, because I had to kind of cut my cloth to make sure that I financially walk away from a well-paying job into doing something that, yes, I absolutely want to do and I love to do, but it's going to pay me like very little really in the grand scheme of things. And that's what I had to do. I had to stop buying stuff. Tyree says GW with their detail that people want and demand have fewer miniatures on a single frame is where the pricing difference is. Yeah, that's probably details I'm not really sure about. Sean's saying, well, they can't be. That's why they get upset. I'm not sure what that's going to, mate. He said, it's like no one wants to be the kid in school with home-down clothes and stuff. Hand-me-down clothes and stuff. I agree, mate. Nobody does, but what do you do about that? Like, we're talking at different things here. We're talking about, like a kid at school with hand-me-down clothes is obviously coming from a family that doesn't have very much money. I think the last thing on his mind is buying GW miniatures kind of thing. Like, it's not like for like that. Like, unfortunately, life is not fair, and there are sliding scales of how much money people have, and I don't like. I'm not like kind of like I've said before. I'm not rolling money. I don't make a fortune from this. I don't even make minimum wage from this. So it's like, would I love everybody to be able to play the game? Would I love more people to play against? Absolutely. Is it going to happen? Are they going to drop their prices? Not as long as they answer to shareholders and they're making more and more money because they're a business. Super Pumpkin Man says, I'm trying to get certified as a scuba diver. Yeah, it's a fortune, mate. It costs an absolute fortune with that kind of stuff. VG says third-party sculpts can be awesome. Again, a point of the RTLW Aspect Warriors, way better than GW ones. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that, mate. Where did that go? Glenn says you could buy some Idenith and imagine you're diving. Christopher Warden says people should just be happy with the quality of life we have that allows us to have time for hobbies. I completely agree, mate. I mean, I know some people are in bad situations and all that kind of stuff, so I can't speak for everybody. But in general, most people, like in the Western world now, kind of have, or certainly Western influenced world, have more than they know what to do with. Most people have a smartphone. Most people have like sort of hundreds of channels on their TVs and the big widescreen TVs and all that kind of stuff. Sean says, I quit smoking because they kept upping the cost. Yeah, I wouldn't even consider taking up smoking because of how much it cost me. David Mackay says, I'd forgotten about Hero Quest. Yeah, I just need to get it finished, mate. Sean C, love the Hero Quest. Hero Quest is awesome, mate. Thank you for sharing that link, Christian. Much appreciated, matey. VJ says, please mention for cash-strapped people to Google Poor Hammer. As much awesome creativity out of adversity. I've never heard of that, mate. Yeah, please, folks, check out Poor Hammer. I'm not so keen on the name, mine, I must admit. It kind of has a connotation with it. Carol says, a lot of people here put up made to order. The price is the price, but it sucks when you can't buy the box just because your store got 0 boxes. Yeah, I don't disagree with that, mate. But it's like, there's not much you can do about it. Like unfortunately, is it? I mean, and that's easy for me to see. I've got my box sitting here now after I missed out originally, but all I can say is I think there's going to be a lot more available. That's all I can say. Sermon Steen says, I know people that donate blood and use that money to buy models. It's their only money for models. We don't get paid to donate blood in the UK, mate. You give blood for free. Jez says, is that why... if I can find it, where it's just jumped up there. Jez said... Is that why 40k generates hate? It's not Hero Quest. The best thing about Hero Quest is the lack of hate. Super Pumpkin Man says, my plans is basically not to buy new models until all my other ones are built, or buy a new video game until I've played and finished it. That's kind of one of the things I got into. So what it did was when I stopped buying stuff was I kind of went back through my old catalogue of stuff that I'd bought over the years and stuff and really started to assess, am I going to play it anymore? If not, I should sell it on. That kind of stuff really. And now, like I said before about Indomitus, I said I wasn't even going to pre-order it unless I could get the Marines I had finished, and that's exactly what I did. Jason saying, definitely a very generous giveaway. You are welcome, folks. It's generous because I really appreciate the support. Without the support of the community, without the support of people making donations and people buying t-shirts like this one, without people kind of coming on a Patreon and supporting me, this wouldn't be possible. So yeah, I'm giving something that's generous because it means something to me. So I'm kind of giving it to you for doing something that means something to me. Peter says, I had to wear hand-me-down clothes at school, but my parents ran a fancy dress shop. Krabby says, I'm happy to buy second-hand models. Why is that worse than buying a second-hand car? I don't think there's anything wrong with buying second-hand models, mate. I don't think anybody's really kind of suggesting that it isn't. VJ says, I grew up in hand-me-down clothes. I got into GW through Hero Quest and Space Crusade. I reused the mini to get started. I grew up, mate, with pretty much nothing either. Like, my dad was a coal miner and was on strike pretty much for 2 years when we had absolutely no income at all. We were used to have to go to like sort of like food kitchens, like soup kitchens to get food and stuff. I've been from like living with absolutely kind of like not 2 pennies to rub together to kind of like being relatively kind of comfortable and not having to really worry about money. I've been everywhere in between many times as well. The one thing that doesn't change is kind of like it's not linked to how happy it makes you, that's for sure. Peter said it was no fun going to school dressed as a Japanese admiral. Jason said, are peeps in the States eligible for the Hero Quest giveaway? Everybody is eligible, mate. No matter where you are. I've got people in the Patreon who are in Australia. There's somebody over in Maui. Doesn't matter where you are, mate. If you've got an address I can ship it to, I'll find a way to ship it to you if you win it. Carol says, we always warn newbies about the cost. 40k is a hard hobby for a country where adults make $450 per month. Yeah, and unfortunately, I think that's kind of like, that's definitely the case. It's, again, it comes down to the kind of like, kind of cost of living in different countries. And just because, and this is, I don't mean this to sound like a horrible thing to say, but because, like, for example, to try, like, if GW make a product in the UK to go and sell it in China, for example, they're not going to suddenly sell it for 30p, if you like, to fall in line with the cost of living in different countries. Crisis hating on 40k doesn't increase your take-home pay, does it? No, it doesn't, mate. Sean said, I gave up on TV too, so I could just do more hobbies. I don't watch a lot of TV, to be fair. I watch a little bit with my wife now and again, and I might put something on in the background while I'm kind of hobbying and stuff, but I don't watch like any live TV or anything. I don't have like Sky TV. I don't like have like sports channels and movie channels and all that kind of stuff. I have the kind of like the basic stuff really, and a Netflix subscription. Jared said, the great hobby paradox: as a kid, I had all the time and none of the money. As an adult, I have all the money and none of the time. That's it, mate. It's time rich. Was it cash rich, time poor? That's kind of what happens, isn't it? Brian said, I've bought poorly painted stuff on eBay and repainted it. Got a Land Raider for $40 from eBay. Yeah, there's quite. I mean, to be honest, a new edition coming out is quite often a time when people are selling stuff on. Sean says, I have 3 Hero Quest sets smooshed into the same box because the box has always died over the years. Mine stayed pretty good, to be fair, mate. It stayed pretty good. Tony Tiger says, defund the BBC and save £150. That's some plastic. Yeah, I've been seeing a little bit of stuff about that recently. Scott says, what colour scheme are you painting your Necrons, Andy? So, this was my test model, mate, that I did on an old Necron model that I had. So you might be able to see if I can get. I can't really zoom in from there, but you can see it. If I remember the colours, it is like it's a really light kind of like brassy, bronzy colour, dry brushed over black, and then skeleton horde wash all over the model, and then skeleton horde again just on the kind of the arm parts, where the muscle bits would be, if you like, and then it is the kind of the power stuff is Mephiston red highlighted up to what's it called, blazing orange or something like that, to kind of they're going to be, if I can get they're going to be kind of like brassy and orange, mate. This was an old Necron model I've had lying around for ages, and I just used that as a test model at the weekend. So yes, that's what it's going to be, mate. Bobby Clark said, don't think I can class 40k comments as hate. Facebook comments on the latest world topics, however. It's different when I say hate. I mean people hating the game, not like kind of sort of generic like hate speech type stuff, if you like. I I think, to be honest, I think some people thought I was going to talk about that tonight, and talk about like sort of the whole GW kind of you will not be missed comment and stuff like that. I think there was some people thought that's what I was going to talk about tonight. And that wasn't the point of this. Scott saying he's after some of the older Necrons. These were all on the wrong size bases and everything. I find a 30mm base just to try and base it and just to see what it is. I've got like, what did they used to? Did they used to come in a box of like 12 or something random like that? I might have. Felmood Sentinel says Crons look amazing now. To be honest, mate, there's not a huge difference between the Warriors. They're not massively different to look at them at first glance. But the other stuff is awesome. Yeah. Bobby says on a positive note, I start painting a Primaris army for charity in 2 weeks' time. Hobby leads to more positive things than negative. That's good, mate. To see it to do it that way. Standard Tabletop says, bloody hell, is he going to get the bottom of the chat? It's getting to that time, mate. There's still 124 people in, to be fair, like, so we've done all right to get down to the bottom of the chat. Nostak says, I was once told the pricing is based off the pricing of a Big Mac in the country. McDonald's have done all the hard work of calculate a product to the market value, and GW can calculate from there. I guess, but then you've got like, I don't think they don't ship like Big Macs from the UK to sell in other countries, so there is an element of a bit of difference. Where's that? Jess Hunt, Bowie, nice one. Yeah, Jeff is in, as we're saying, your summing up is perfect. What you like and appreciate the fact that others play what they like, the more the merrier. Yeah, I mean, we're getting towards the end of the stream now, folks, and really that's kind of the summary for tonight. Is basically don't shit on the stuff that other people love. Like, you don't have to hate something to make your game seem better. Like, if people love something and people are really getting enjoyment from, like this Indomitus box, yes, it's been hyped to far heaven and it's all over the place and everyone's excited about it and all that kind of stuff. If it's not for you, just scroll by, just ignore it. It'll be something else we're talking about in a few weeks' time. There'll be another company has a new game out that people might be talking about. Just let people enjoy what they enjoy. Like, hate and negativity never ever leads to a good conclusion. You will always come off worse going down a negative path. And that's the kind of a message for life, really. If you try to focus on positive stuff, positive things will happen, because it's natural. You will focus on the positive things. You will notice the positive things happening, and because if you it's like when people say they're unlucky, it's because you remember all the bad dice rolls. You never remember all the sixes you rolled. You just remember, I had loads of ones. If you kept a track of it, I bet you'd find you probably rolled even amounts of sixes and ones. But if you focus on the negative, you will only remember the negative. If you focus on the positive, you'll remember the positive stuff, and that just puts you in a better frame of mind. It's not a case of like burying your head in the sand. It's just about having a positive outlook and a positive focus. Paul Jones says, people complain about the cost of GW stuff, buy from independent hobby shops. There's usually 20% saving. To be honest, mate, I kind of think GW factor that in. When people say it's expensive, it's because I think they know there's a whole chunk of people who will go and buy it at 20% discount. I think the problem comes is that there are a lot of people who still go and buy it from a GW shop because they feel loyal to it, if you like. David Mackay says, 2 dislikes. I think you upset someone. I'm surprised it's not more, mate, if I'm honest. I'm a little bit disappointed. Super Pumpkin Man says, you got 100 likes. That's awesome, mate. 100 likes is nice. It doesn't really mean anything, but it's nice. Scott Longman says he's buying Subbuteo on Thursday. Is that what you're selling your Infinity stuff for, mate? Jason says, I'm kind of disappointed with the new base Trooper Necron molds. Still looks kind of generic. I really like them, mate. But then, to be fair, I quite like the old ones. So maybe it's just my taste. There's a lot of detail to them, to be fair, but they dry brush up lovely. Marco says, cross-border resellers are a risk. Yeah, I don't know much about them, mate, but I can imagine there's some element of that kind of stuff. They're a risk when you start a price to local markets. Yes, they definitely are. Super Pumpkin Man, Bobby McFerrin said it best. Don't worry, be happy. Yes. And Scott says, yes, it is. Cheers to start his man cave. Yoakum says, got to sleep. Good night, folks. Thanks for another great stream. Thank you, Yoakum. That reminds me as well. I forgot. In fact, I'm not going to go into D&D tonight. It's too late in the stream. I want to talk about. I'll probably talk about D&D probably on Wednesday night when we do a hobby hangout and we'll do a painting stream. So those of you that's new tonight, I stream every single Monday night from 9 p.m. onwards. I stream every Wednesday as well from 8:30 p.m. UK time onwards. And the Wednesday nights are kind of just a more relaxed. I'll sit and paint some models and we'll just kind of sit and chat and we talk about all sorts of stuff. I've got some extra videos and stuff coming on top of that as well. But yeah, every single week, every Monday, every Wednesday, I'll be streaming. It'd be awesome if you're not subscribed. I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel and come and check out some of my other stuff as well. So thank you very much. Lord Maiden says, talking about a different thing, have you seen the next Kickstarter for Pirates of the Dread Sea will come up tomorrow? I did see they were talking about it. I don't know what it's going to be. I've not seen the stuff it's going to be. In fact, I think I have. I forget what they're called though. Yeah, so they've got a new Kickstarter coming, haven't they? Luke says, don't keep track of dice rolls, people. Arnold Rimmer made it clear it's not a good conversation topic. Jez Hunt says, life lessons from Andy. He's well wise. I'm getting old, mate. That's what it is. I've experienced the good and I've experienced the bad, and the good stuff's far nicer. Christian says some of the most memorable moments in D&D come from failures rather than successes, which is part of what makes it such a great thing to play. In that instance, it's not a failure, is it? Like, for me, I think a good point, I think you told me this bit, you can't really win at D&D. It's the story will go where the story goes kind of thing. But you're right. Like, that's what creates the fun moments. David Mackay says, I got 16 gold in a tournament called Lust for Gold. Oh, negative 16. I was dragon chewed and loved every minute of it. And I got a bonus prize with a box of treasure models. Nice one, mate. Felmu Sentinel says, beat your thoughts to the mould of your will. Yes. Palms EC and I took an Amiga and a load of games for a Subbuteo said back in the day. Wow. Yes, start his man cave. We should do a Subbuteo Fred in the Patreon group. Absolutely, mate. I'm happy with that. Scott says, do a stream on Subbuteo, the game my time forgot. I've been watching loads of Subbuteo on YouTube recently, actually. I went down a right old rabbit hole with that one. Phil saying the new Necron Warrior heads are cool. Yeah, they are quite nice, mate, with all the kind of like the scars and the dints and stuff. I like all that stuff. Jeff saying, can't wait to hear about D&D. Yeah, I had... Jason says, give us a little tickle. We've still got over 100 people in, so I might as well kind of tell you about it anyway. So yeah, we played last Thursday. There was 6 of us in the team, in the war band party, if you like. And Christian, who's in the chat tonight, who's our moderator, he was our DM. I played a half orc called called Agadurk, and yeah, essentially, so we were kind of transporting some materials, some equipment to a town called Blackstone, I think it was, something like that. Was it Blackstone? It was something stone. And obviously we kind of got attacked along the way and stuff. And my character was carrying this kind of two-handed warhammer, and he had a crossbow as well. The crossbow was working well, and then he kind of rushes into combat. And every time I tried to swing this this warhammer, it absolutely flopped. I don't think I hit anybody with it all night. And I kept saying, I'm not using that again. And then I would go, it has to work this time. I'm going to come back, I'm going to use this hammer. It absolutely flopped every single time I tried to roll it. But there were some really fun stories. Christian did an awesome job. We did it through Discord, through the video chat. And Christian had set everything up on Roll20 as well. But some of the stories, like, it was... we ended up in this town, and for breakfast they had some nice fruit cocktails. And one of the cocktails was called Push Pineapple, and the other cocktail was called Shake the Tree. Much in kind of in honour of Agadurk, who had been nicknamed Agadu. So yeah, you can imagine it was that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was funny. Red Rose Wargaming was in our game as well, and she basically. She cast this spell on me, which basically meant that I had to kind of do what she said. So I ended up climbing down this ladders and ended up in like this big excrement-filled room full of all of the dirt and the shit from everywhere. So yeah, it was just fun. It was a really good laugh. We managed to kind of get to the end of the story. We were playing for it must have been about 4 hours. I think we played, but it was awesome. I loved every minute of it. Was it 4 hours? No, we played from about 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11:30. Yeah, we played about 4.5 hours, but it was awesome. I really did enjoy it. First time I've ever played D&D. The Roll20 system made it really easy. I just had to kind of click stuff, and that was much easier than trying to kind of add stuff up and looking stats up and things. It made it really easy for my first try. And Christian did an awesome job of running it all. The story was fantastic. He controlled everything to the point where it controlled it, so it was a case of you can do whatever you want. It was really kind of open ended. We could do whatever we liked. I really enjoyed it. I'll jump through the chat now and just kind of tidy a few things up before we call it a night. Andrew Fairbanks said, I've argued that GW should decrease prices solely because of the number of new faces I've seen go to Warhammer store, pick up a box, turn it over and put it back. I'm sure they have, mate, but the profits keep going up. There's enough people keep buying stuff that the ones that don't buy it are not impacting on them. Yes, they could sell more, but then they would have to sell a lot more if they drop the prices, if that makes sense. There's also the same argument as well, is that basically their production facilities are pretty much maxed out. So if they're selling everything they're making, you never drop your price if you're selling out. If you weren't selling out, maybe you've got some room to manoeuvre. But if you're selling everything you make, you don't drop your prices. Jason says, excrement filled. Yes, it was full of shit, mate. Super Punk Man says, this is why D&D is fun. If you're not trying to take things seriously and not drama heavy. It was awesome, mate. It was absolutely awesome. VG says, looking forward to Andy's I've Discovered RPG stream. Yeah, it was really good. And Carol says, good night, people. Good stream. Fun as always. Well, folks, we've managed to keep over 100 people for the entire stream tonight. I'd love you to come back and kind of post a bit of a comment, like in the comment thread of this video, because anybody that comes to watch this later on, like that's what they'll kind of see and stuff, and let me know what you think. Is this a kind of topic that you kind of like to discuss? I know we talk about different games and stuff, but is it good to kind of throw something different in there? Tell me what you think. Tell me if you completely disagree with me. Tell me if you didn't want to put it in the chat tonight and you have a different opinion. Please put it in the comments. I would love to know. But other than that, thanks very much every single one of you for coming tonight. Thank you as well for the donations tonight. Much appreciated. Helps me keep the lights on in here and keep food in my belly. And I will see you all on Wednesday night in the Hobby Hangout. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you then. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month, and there is lots of different tiers and bonuses which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now